This is part 2 today of how to get out of the pleaser helper mode, and in part 2 I am talking about boundaries and how to set boundaries. Now, boundaries is something that the first thing we have to do in order to overcome boundaries is to realize, in order to set boundaries, not overcome them, in order to set boundaries is to realize when they are broken. Do you realize, do you always notice when someone is disrespecting your boundaries? Or are you usually kind of oblivious to it? Obviously, if you are thinking, someone is disrespecting you, insulting you, is infringing on your personal space, well, these are obvious things where you would say, well, they are not really respecting my boundaries. But then there are these little ways where our boundaries get always stepped over. Like, you are really tired and you just complained like, man, I had such a hard week. I really need to rest. And then your family member says, hey, I really need someone to help me on this move. I know you're tired, but could you just not really make an exception and come at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning? And, basically you are not respected for needing some help or needing some rest. You are ignored. Or let's say you are super excited about something. Hey, I read this really exciting book and I really learned so much. And your family that you're sharing this with is just picking it apart. Oh, this is just, woo-woo. This is, not really sound science. This is not something that's going to work. And immediately your boundary of having something that's precious to you preserved gets again pushed aside. So there are these little ways that people are not honoring and respecting us that are breaking of boundaries. It doesn't have to be, anything insulting or harsh. It can be little ways where we just feel like our needs don't matter. What we need is really somehow ignored. What's important to us is either judged or criticized or put down. And that is where we just need to realize, hey, you know what? I need better boundaries. So if you want to build better boundaries, know when your boundaries get ignored. And then number 2 is assert yourself. How many of you feel that they have a voice, that they actually speak up on their behalf? How many of you feel like that when you say something, people see it as this matters? When you say something, people pay attention. And how many of you feel consistently either tongue-tied, silenced, or ignored? And it's not just about how you say it. It's also about the consistency of saying it. So having the assertiveness and simply saying no is a full sentence, as my wife likes to say. So if you feel like you're really tired, you're already at the end of your wits and someone still wants something from you, whether it's your colleague throws something on your desk or a family member who wants some help, or even your partner who just, wants to go on an exciting adventure and you are just not up for it, say no. It's okay to say no, because a no to overgiving, overdoing, overpleasing is actually a yes for yourself. Now, you're not saying no against someone. You're saying no because you want to take care of yourself. So you have to have the right attitude with those boundaries. The boundaries are not about pushing others away. The boundaries are about you caring and having compassion and ideally a little bit of love for yourself. So have the right energy with the no. And no is not the best or only way to say it. Sometimes it's good to say more specifically, this is how I feel. I'm sorry, I cannot help you this time, but maybe next time, or maybe you can, offer another solution, a compromise, I cannot be the person who can do this for you, but maybe you want to ask somebody else. And sometimes it's just really also pointing out when you get pushed and pushed and pushed that, sorry, I don't think that you hear me. I think, this conversation is over. I mean, I am someone who had zero boundaries. And I remember a friend of mine routinely calling me at 2:00 in the morning on a Sunday night because her date didn't go well. And then she had to give me the play-by-play every time. And since I wanted to be a good friend, I thought, hey, I'm just going to listen. And I'm just going to, even though I'm totally tired, try to give her advice. And when I said, I guess I have to go now, I'm really tired, and she just kept on talking, I just kept on listening. I could not get this to an end. And this is something that I really learned, that some people need to be told 3-4 times clearly before they pay attention. But guess what? When you do actually say no, or when you say, this is not working for me, or sorry, let's talk about another time, and you do it consistently, you get more respect from them. And ultimately, that's what we want in good relationships. We want to be more respect. We want to be not taken for granted. We don't want to be taken advantage of or abused. We want to be respected. And so also make a boundary because you want to respect yourself. Now, these are the external boundaries. Now, the even more important one are the internal boundaries. And what I mean with internal boundaries is when we shoot ourselves into the foot. Let's say, there is someone that you feel did treat you not very well, and you are feeling really upset that you didn't call them out on it, that you didn't push back, that you didn't defend yourself, that you didn't say, hey, this is not okay, this is not called for. But rather than putting it to rest and saying like, okay, next time I'm going to be better, you continue to think about it. And you continue to, in your head, go through the same story. And first you get upset about that person and how dare they and whatever. And then you're starting to beat up on yourself. Well, I'm such a loser. Apparently, I deserve to be treated like this. And that is where you also need to say, stop. I'm not giving my power away. I'm not giving more of myself, more of my energy, more of my time to a situation that already has happened, or a situation that I cannot really change. So I will say no to myself. Self-care also means to let things go and not continuously, go around it in circles, continuously wonder why, continuously bemoan yourself for, once again, not having been really strong enough or not really having been outspoken enough. Just do that and don't do this to yourself. Also realize every opportunity, even if it looks like a failure, if it looks like we didn't do the right thing, or we should have been better, or we could have done better, these are only opportunities for us to learn and grow from. We are never really powerless. Even situations that in the end turn out to be, to our disadvantage. We don't really like what happened, but we can still turn it around in an empowering way by saying, this is what I'm going to do next time differently. This is what I can learn from it. And when you really have a hard time to let go, especially when people did you wrong, and you really feel like that, this is something that you are attaching so much energy and focus on, just say, is this other person's behavior, whatever they did to me, they disrespected me, they insulted me, they judged me, they ignored me, whatever, is this a reflection of who I am? And you would say, no, it says so much more about that person than about me. And if this person treat me like this, do I really deserve to be treated like this, or do I deserve to be treated with greater respect? And then you ask yourself, why is this person's behavior no longer acceptable for me, and why do I want to have a stronger boundary next time? The whys are incredibly powerful. If we don't know why we do something, we pretty much are an autopilot, or we only doing it because out of a habit. But if you want to change a habit, like a habit of having no boundaries, well, know the why. And the why is basically you saying, I'm doing it because I want to take better care of myself. I want to be the steward of my energy, of my time. I want to be someone who looks in the mirror and says, I like myself. Yeah, maybe there are some people that don't like this new version of myself who finally has boundaries, but I do like myself better. And that's all that counts. And the third boundary is the boundary, again, an internal boundary. It's a boundary of compassion. See, I feel way more powerful than anger, assertiveness, strength, all those things that we think like, well, this is how you create a boundary. It has to be strong like a wall. A much stronger boundary for us is to have compassion. And what I mean with this is when we are looking at other people and we are looking at ourselves and understanding that ultimately we are just trying to do the best we can. We are trying to somehow get our needs met. We are trying to somehow move from E to B. We're all on the same journey and we're all the fellow travelers. And so yes, we do struggle. Some people struggle with seeing boundaries. Some people struggle with creating boundaries. Some people struggle with taking care of themselves, so they always have to have others that take care of them. And some people struggle with actually not overgiving and overpleasing. So we all have our issues. We all have our challenges. And if we are allowing ourselves to have compassion for each other, we can actually create an energy around ourselves that cannot be penetrated. That is something that lets all negativity bounce off. So imagine for a moment the last person who was breaking your boundaries, who was, again, either mean to you or was just having expectations on you that somehow you felt like, well, I have to fulfill them, otherwise, I get in trouble or I lose this friend or I lose my job or whatever. And you're simply allowing yourself now to have compassion for this person. Close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes and think about someone who did you wrong and you didn't have the best boundaries. And now see this person through your heart and through the lens of compassion. And try to see their issues, their pain, their fears, their insecurities, their void inside of them that they want to fill, their need to control because they are feeling so powerless and so afraid of being out of control because they cannot trust anyone. Whatever you can see in that person, just notice. That's an incredible way for you to not feel affected by that person. Because what you see is that this is all their issue. The way they act, the way they try to get away with stuff, the way they try to take time, energy, or your power, it says nothing about you. It says all about their struggles. And you don't have to buy into it. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to please them or you don't have to give in. But you also don't feel affected by it anymore because you can see this is their journey. This is their, challenge that they have to resolve, their wound to heal, not your burden to carry. And then have also the boundary of compassion with yourself and just really understand, I understand that I can be compassionate with myself because I never learned how to have boundaries. One of my parents was probably always a giver and always a pleaser and always afraid of creating conflict. No one ever told me it's a right to say no. Everything that I was programmed with was say yes, give and overgive. Don't make your needs more important than other people because they are not. And all these beliefs and messages that made us so open without any assertiveness, without any boundaries. Have compassion for that too. And just understand it's a learning process. And because you may be a pleaser and you may find pleasure in pleasing others, You may feel that having a boundary is selfish, and you may feel that having a boundary is, separating you from your true nature, or maybe it's going to make you end up all alone. And it's not true. You can give, and you can share whatever time, energy, and gifts you want to share with others, but all within reason, all within a balance. And so the fourth boundary I want you to be aware of is a boundary over your time and energy, and that is again a boundary of awareness. Notice when there is a point when you gave too much. Notice when there is a point when you don't have the energy, you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, and that's the moment when you have to say no. So a very, very simple exercise for that is to really imagine for a moment an inner scale. And on the left side is your energy, your resources, the way you feel. On the right side is that what you give to others. That's where the energy goes out. That's where you are, supplying yourself to others and serving them in the best way. And then think about which side gets more attention. If you look at that scale, is more energy going out, or are you taking more energy back to yourself? Are you sourcing more others, or are you resourcing yourself equally? And if you feel like, my energy is much less, and what I give out and what I do is much heavier, then you're depleting yourself. Just as you go through the day, everything you do, just give it little numbers. You can say from a scale of 1 to 10, how much energy did I give my job? How much energy did I give my children? How much energy and time did I give my friends? How much energy and time did I give the garden? And then you are looking on the other side and how much energy did I get in return? Maybe taking care of your kids feeds you 2 points, but it also drains you 6 points. So then you have a deficit of 4. Maybe your job gives you pleasure and it makes you purposeful, but you also feel like the time and energy is still more than what you get in return. And I am sure most of us are depleted. Most of us feel somewhere that we are empty and drained. And so most of us really need to pay attention to that side that is about resourcing ourselves and refilling our battery. And so just be aware of that, because that's another boundary. Just like you wouldn't give your money to everyone until you're just completely broke. Just like you wouldn't give your life force energy to everyone so that you are just living shorter lives than you should. You want to be aware of your day-to-day energy. It's limited. It's not unlimited. And there's a certain amount that needs to always stay inside of ourselves, because if not, we tend to get actually ill and we tend to deplete ourselves. And there's just now, there are also boundaries to have with your animals, because obviously there's a little kitty, where is it? Here it is, that just jumped on my lap. So not a good boundary there for her that I have right now. But on the other hand, I have to say she also feeds me. And so it's a good exchange. I pet her, that feeds me. So I don't think it's a really draining endeavor. But if you have any questions about boundaries, that's your chance to ask them. What do I tell myself to have a boundary? What are, maybe there is a situation where you feel like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to have a better boundary. Just ask it, send it in the DM or in the comment section underneath, and I'm definitely happy to answer it. But with every boundary setting, with every boundary creation, you have to understand it's a habit that we have to create. It's something that we have to create and gradually build day by day. It's a day by day decision making. Some people, tell me, oh, I'm so good in boundary, I never say yes again, and I'm always just, looking out for myself. But then they also deep inside feel bad because it's not really a solid way of going through life. It's much more a sense of now the pendulum swings to the opposite, but the part of them that actually likes to please and the part of them that actually likes to, also give and share and engage in other people's lives feels like coming short. And so that's not ideal. So try to also see what works. Maybe the first thing is for you just to be aware which of those boundary breaking points is absolutely not acceptable for you. And that's the one you're going to focus on. And then you go to the next level and you speak up. First, maybe with a simple no, and you try out how that goes. And then you're becoming more, fine-tuned with your expressions. Make sure your inner boundaries are intact so that you always know there's a certain amount of energy I am willing to give a problem or a person by thinking about it, but then I'm done, then I'm moving on, then I'm focusing on myself. Always in your meditations, when you wake up in the morning, have compassion for yourself, and then also have compassion especially for those that feel challenging to you. And then definitely always keep track. Just like, you're driving, you keep track of how much gas or battery power you still have. Keep track on what your energy levels are, what you feel is, something that you can give, and feel also clear about when you need to fill yourself back up. And filling yourself back up is a whole different topic because many of us don't even know how to fill batteries. And here's a clue. Sitting in front of TV and binging your favorite show is only a limited way to feed your batteries and fill yourself up. Because in the end, it is also, stop it. See, that's a boundary. It's also quite draining to do that. And so there are much better ways, and that's a topic for a whole different life. So I hope this helps. I love setting boundaries, and every time I do it, I feel good about myself, and I know that I'm doing myself a gift, a service, and it's a gift and service out of self-respect and self-love. So I hope you're going to also on this journey to create stronger boundaries have a similar experience. Last thing, if you create boundaries, don't necessarily expect that everyone gives you a standing ovation and says, yeah, wow, look at this person. Now I'm respecting them more. You may actually get quite a few pushbacks. You may get quite a few long faces. You may even have people that want to write you off. That's totally fine. Whenever we change, whenever we grow, there is also a moment where in the end we will weed out the people that are in alignment with our growth and those that are not, those that want to have us smaller, disempowered, and in many ways with less of our own agency. And that is simply, if you tuned in, hopefully you agree with me, no longer acceptable. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.